The Urantia book, section 2, the local universe, paper 51, the Planetary Adams. During the dispensation of a planetary prince, primitive man reaches the limit of natural evolutionary development, and this biologic attainment signals the system's sovereign to dispatch to such a world the second order of sonship, the biologic uplifters, the Material Son. These sons, for there are two of them, the material son and daughter, are usually known on a planet as Adam and Eve. The original material son of Satania is Adam, and those who go to the system worlds as biologic uplifters always carry the name of this first and original son of their unique order. So Adam and Eve were here as biologic uplifters. These sons are the material gift of the Creator Son to the inhabited worlds. Together with the Planetary Prince, they remain on their planet of assignment. Throughout the evolutionary course of such a sphere, such an adventure on a world, having a Planetary Prince is not much of a hazard. But on an apostate planet, which Urantia is, that's why we have apostate Bibles and apostasy, because this planet is an apostate planet due to the system headquarters sovereign Lucifer. He brought in this apostateness. But on a apostate planet, a realm without a spiritual ruler and deprived of interplanetary communication, such a mission is fraught with grave danger. Although you cannot hope to know all about the work of these sons on all the worlds of Satania and other systems, other papers depict more fully the life and experiences of the interesting pair Adam and Eve, who came from the corpse of the biologic uplifters of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the constellation headquarters of constellation Norlatia Deck, which this local universe Nebadon is part of, and thus we Urantians who live on Urantia are also part of. To upstep the Urantia races, while there was a miscarriage of the ideal plans for improving your native races, still Adam's mission was not in vain. Urantia has profited immeasurably from the gift of Adam and Eve. And this is something we, the people on earth, Urantia, do not know. We do not know that the type of life and the things that we are doing right now are actually coming from and coming forth from Adam and Eve. I've said earlier that in the beginning the human race was very primitive, and was in such a state and condition that they needed a biologic uplifting. This biologic uplifting is needed to also make soul progression, and soul progression into new spiritual levels, because spirituality is always part of life. It can be taken out. That's not, if spirituality is being taken out, which we see with technology and other things, and the way that scientists are doing their things, they do not add the spiritual component to it, and with this you get this balance. Immediate. Spiritual component is needed. You can't leave that out. The fact that we are able to make music, that we can sing, that we are very skilled in many art forms, that we can, and better said, that we are very skilled in artisticness, is actually because of the biologic uplift coming from Adam and Eve. And other skills in the human race have been tremendously improved, all because of Adam and Eve in the time they have been here. And among their fellows and in the councils on high, their work is not reckoned as a total loss. So it's about time that we get to approach this whole story about Adam and Eve beyond Bible idea. Because the story that is there in the Bible is incorrect and completely man fantasy, and is not correct, and it does not give a good and total correct image and picture about Adam and Eve and whom they actually were. Because of this, humanity is still blaming Adam and Eve for the things they have done. And this, again, is due to lack of understanding and deeper spiritual-based knowledge about Adam and Eve. So, knowing this, we need to look from a different point of view to Adam and Eve and be thankful for the things that they have brought to us. Although they could not succeed their entire mission, also due to impatience from their side, because they could not cope with the slow level of progression the human race in that time and era was in. It doesn't mean that they were, as a couple, bad beings. And so again, we need to look from a different perspective to Adam and Eve and actually be thankful to them for the things that they have brought to this world. And I am thankful for the things that they have brought to this world. And yes, I also were in early days very, finger pointing to them, like if they would never made this fall and blah blah blah. But now, since I am working myself through the Urantia book, and because of deeper understanding, I truly started to have appreciation for them and appreciation for the things that they have brought to this planet. And I'm very thankful for the things that they have brought to this planet despite the short time that they could spend here. One, origin and nature of the material sons of God. The material or sex sons and daughters are the offspring of the Creator Son. The universe mother spirit does not participate in the production of these beings who are destined to function as physical uplifters. On the evolutionary worlds, the material order of sonship is not uniform throughout the local universe. The Creator Son produces only one pair of these beings in each local system. These original pairs are diverse in nature, being attuned to the life pattern of their respective systems. This is a necessary provision, since otherwise the reproductive potential of the atoms would be non-functional with that of the evolving mortal beings of the worlds of any one particular system. The Adam and Eve who came to Urantia were descended from the original Satania pair of material sons. Material sons vary in height from 8 to 10 feet. Wow! And their bodies glow with the brilliance of radiant light of a violet hue. So they brought the violet coloration, the violet hue, among humankind. So that is why we sometimes can see in some people a violent hue in their skin coloration. That is because they have, in a certain way, the Adamic life plasm in them. And thus, this violet hue. Material sons vary in height from 8 to 10 feet, and their bodies glow with the brilliance of radiant light of a violet hue. While material blood circulates through their material bodies, they are also surcharged with divine energy and saturated with celestial light. These material sons, the Adams, and material daughters, the Eves, are equal to each other, differing only in reproductive nature and in certain chemical endowments. They are equal but differential, male and female, hence complemental, and are designed to serve on almost all assignments in pairs. The material sons enjoy a dual nutrition. They are really dual in nature and constitution, partaking of materialized energy, much as do the physical beings of the realm, while their immortal existence is fully maintained by the direct and automatic intake of certain sustaining cosmic energies. They had a double energy system. One that was able to make sure that the material body should not decease, and they could eat from the tree of life, and that you can only eat from the tree of life if you have a special circulation in you. And many people in this world have tried to do the same, and this was the breatharian movement. People who claimed to only be able to live from sunlight and water. Well, these people have done a dangerous thing to their body because they don't have this dual system in them. And so if you do such things, you are actually pledging horror on your body and afflicting your body in such a way that death can result. The material sons enjoy a dual nutrition. They are really dual in nature and constitution, partaking of materialized energy much as do the physical beings of the realm, while their immortal existence is fully maintained by the direct and automatic intake of certain sustaining cosmic energies. Should they fail on some mission of assignment or even consciously and deliberately rebel, this order of sons becomes isolated, cut off from connection with the universe source of light and life. Thereupon they become practically material beings, destined to take the course of material life on the world of their assignment and compelled to look to the universe magistrates for adjudication. Material death will eventually terminate the planetary career of such an unfortunate and unwise material son or daughter. An original or directly created Adam and Eve are immortal by inherent endowment, just as are all other orders of local universe sonship. But a diminution of immortality potential characterizes their sons and daughters. This original couple cannot transmit unconditioned immortality to their procreated sons and daughters. Their progeny are dependent for continuing life on unbroken intellectual synchrony with the mind-gravity circuit of the spirit. And the mind-gravity circuit comes from the infinite spirit. Since the inception of the system of Satania, 13 planetary Adams have been lost in rebellion and default, and 681,204 in the subordinate positions of trust. Most of these defections occurred at the time of the Lucifer rebellion. While living as permanent citizens on the system capitals, even when functioning on descending missions to the evolutionary planets, the material sons do not possess thought adjusters, but it is through these very services that they acquire experiential capacity for adjuster indwellment and the paradise ascension career. These unique and wonderfully useful beings are the connecting links between the spiritual and physical worlds. They are concentrated on the system headquarters, where they reproduce and carry on as material citizens of the realm, and whence they are dispatched to the evolutionary worlds. Unlike the order created sons of planetary service, the material order of sonship is not by nature invisible to material creatures like the inhabitants of Urantia. These sons of God can be seen, understood, and can in turn actually mingle with the creatures of time, could even procreate with them, though this role of biologic upliftment usually falls to the progeny of the planetary Adams. On Jerusalem, the loyal children of any Adam and Eve are immortal, but the offspring of a material son and daughter procreated subsequent to their arrival on an evolutionary planet are not thus immune to natural death. There occurs a change in the life-transmitting mechanism when these sons are rematerialized for reproductive function on an evolutionary world. The life carriers designedly deprive the planetary Adams and Eves of the power of begetting undying sons and daughters. If they do not default, an Adam and Eve on a planetary mission can live on indefinitely, but within certain limits, their children experiencing decreasing longevity with each succeeding generation. 2. Transit of the planetary Adams. Upon receipt of the news that another inhabited world has attained the height of physical evolution, the system sovereign convenes the corps of material sons and daughters on the system capital, and following the discussion of the needs of such an evolutionary world, two of the volunteering group, an Adam and an Eve, of the senior corps of material sons are selected to undertake the adventure, to submit to the deep sleep preparatory to being enseraphimed and transported from their home of associated service to the new realm of new opportunities and new dangers. Adams and Eves are semi-material creatures and as such are not transportable by seraphim. They must undergo dematerialization on the system capital before they can be enseraphimed for transport to the world of assignment. The transport seraphim are able to effect such changes in the material sons and in other semi-material beings as enable them to be enseraphimed and thus to be transported through space from one world or system to another. About 3 days of standard time are consumed in this transport preparation, and it requires the cooperation of a life carrier to restore such a dematerialized creature to normal existence upon arrival at the end of the seraphic transport journey. While there is this dematerializing technique for preparing the atoms for transit from Jerusalem to the evolutionary worlds, there is no equivalent method for taking them away from such worlds unless the entire planet is to be emptied, in which event emergency installation of the dematerialization technique is made for the entire solvable population. If some physical catastrophe should doom the planetary residence of an evolving race, the Melchizedeks and the life carriers would install the technique of dematerialization for all survivors, and by seraphic transport these beings would be carried away to the new world prepared for their continuing existence. The evolution of a human race, once initiated on a world of space, must proceed quite independently of the physical survival of that planet. But during the evolutionary ages, it is not otherwise intended that a planetary Adam or Eve shall leave their chosen world. Upon arrival at their planetary destination, the material son and daughter are rematerialized under the direction of the life carriers. This entire process takes 10 to 28 days of Urantia time. Wow, that's quite a time. The unconsciousness of the seraphic slumber continues throughout this entire period of reconstruction. When the reassembly of the physical organism is completed, these material sons and daughters stand in their new homes and on their new worlds, to all intents and purpose, just as they were before submitting to the dematerializing process on Jerusalem. Point 3. The Adamic missions. On the inhabited worlds, the material sons and daughters construct their own garden homes, soon being assisted by their own children. Usually the site of the garden has been selected by the Planetary Prince, and his corporal staff do much of the preliminary work of preparation with the help of many of the higher types of native races. The Gardens of Eden are so named in honor of Edensia, the constellation capital, and because they are patterned after the botanic grandeur of the headquarters world of the Most High Fathers. Such garden homes are usually located in a secluded section and in a near-tropic zone. They are wonderful creations on an average world. You can judge nothing of these beautiful centers of culture by the fragmentary account of the aborted development of such an undertaking on Urantia. A planetary Adam and Eve are, in potential, the full gift of physical grace to the mortal races. The chief business of such an important pair is to multiply and to uplift the children of time. But there is no immediate interbreeding between the people of the garden and those of the world. For many generations, Adam and Eve remain biologically segregated from the evolutionary mortals while they built up a strong race of their order. This is the origin of the violet race on the inhabited worlds. The plans for race upstepping are prepared by the Planetary Prince and his staff and are executed by Adam and Eve, and this was where your material son and his companion were placed at great disadvantage when they arrived on Urantia. Caligastia offered crafty and effective opposition to the Adamic mission, and notwithstanding that the Melchizedek receivers of Urantia had duly warned both Adam and Eve concerning the planetary dangers inherent in the presence of the rebellious Planetary Prince. This arch-rebel, by a wily stratagem, outmaneuvered the Edenic pair and entrapped them into a violation of the covenant of their trusteeship as the visible rulers of your world. So this is exactly what has happened. Not what the Bible is describing, but this has happened. And I truly believe the information that I'm reading here. And I must say it gives so many peace and quietness in my mind and in my heart to know the deeper information about this world and the human race. The traitorous Planetary Prince did succeed in compromising your Adam and Eve, but he failed in his effort to involve them in the Lucifer rebellion. If that would have happened, wow, then this planet was sunk very deep. And thankfully they didn't do so. So that is congrats to Adam and Eve that they never fell prey to the traitorous plans of the Planetary Prince of that time. The fifth order of angels, the planetary helpers, are attached to the Adamic mission, always accompanying the Planetary Adams on their world adventures. The corps of initial assignment is usually about 100,000. Wow! When the work of the Urantia Adam and Eve was prematurely launched, when they departed from the ordained plan, it was one of the seraphic voices of the garden, who remonstrated with them concerning their reprehensible conduct. And this angel has a name, I think it, Solonia. Solonia is the voice, one of the voices of the Garden of Eden, and so connected to Adam and Eve. And your narrative of this occurrence well illustrates the manner in which your planetary traditions have tended to ascribe everything supernatural to the Lord God, which is incorrect in that matter. Because of this, Urantians have often become confused concerning the nature of the Universal Father. So, yeah, it's about time that we get to know the real deal information. Since the words and acts of all his associates and subordinates have been so generally attributed to him. In the case of Adam and Eve, the angel of the garden was none other than the chief of the planetary helpers then on duty. This seraphim Solonia proclaimed the miscarriage of the divine plan and requisitioned the return of the Melchizedek receivers to Urantia. The secondary midway creatures are indigenous to the Adamic missions. As with the corporal staff of the Planetary Prince, the descendants of the material sons and daughters are of two orders: their physical children and the secondary order of midway creatures. These material but ordinarily invisible planetary ministers contribute much to the advancement of civilization and even to the subjection of insubordinate minorities who may seek to subvert social development and spiritual progress. The secondary midwayers should not be confused with the primary order, who date from the near times of the arrival of the Planetary Prince. On Urantia, a majority of these earlier midway creatures went into rebellion with Caligustia, and have since Pentecost been interned. Many of the Adamic group who did not remain loyal to the planetary administration are likewise interned. On the day of Pentecost, the loyal primary and the secondary midwayers effected a voluntary union and have functioned as one unit in world affairs ever since. They serve under the leadership of loyal midwayers, alternately chosen from the two groups. Your world has been visited by 4 orders of sonship: Caligustia, the Planetary Prince; Adam and Eve, of the material sons of God; Machiventa, Melchizedek, the sage of Salem in the days of Abraham, was not really a sage; and Christ Michael, who came as the Paradise Bestowal Son. How much more effective and beautiful it would have been had Michael, the supreme ruler of the universe of Nebadon, been welcomed to your world by a loyal and efficient planetary prince and a devoted and successful material son, both of whom could have done so much to announce the life work and mission of the bestowal son. But not all worlds have been so unfortunate as Urantia. Neither has the mission of the Planetary Adams always been so difficult or so hazardous. When they are successful, they contribute to the development of a great people, continuing as the visible heads of planetary affairs even far into the age when such a world is settled in light and life. The 6 evolutionary races. The race of dominance during the early ages of the inhabited worlds is the red man, who ordinarily is the first to attain human levels of development. But while the red man is the senior race of the planets, the succeeding colored peoples begin to make their appearance very early in the age of mortal emergence. The earlier races are somewhat superior to the later. The red man stands far above the indigo black race. The life carriers impart the full bestowal of the living energies to the initial or red race, and each succeeding evolutionary manifestation of a distinct group of mortals represents variation at the expense of the original endowment. Even mortal stature tends to decrease from the red man down to the indigo race. Although on Urantia unexpected strains of gigantism appeared among the green and orange peoples. Interesting. So probably in the strains of the orange and green peoples, something happened that caused this giantism. On those worlds having all 6 evolutionary races, the superior peoples are the 1st, 3rd, and 5th races. The red, the yellow, and the blue. The evolutionary races thus alternate in capacity for intellectual growth and spiritual development, the 2nd, 4th, and 6th being somewhat less endowed. These secondary races are the peoples that are missing on certain worlds. They are the ones that have been exterminated on many others. It is a misfortune on Urantia that you so largely lost your superior blue men, except as they persist in your amalgamated between quotation marks white race. The loss of your orange and green stocks is not of such serious concern. The evolution of 6 or of 3 colored races, while seeming to deteriorate the original endowment of the red man, provides certain very desirable variations in mortal types and affords an otherwise unattainable expression of diverse human potentials. These modifications are beneficial to the progress of mankind as a whole, provided they are subsequently upstepped by the important Adamic or violet race. On Urantia, this usual plan of amalgamation was not extensively carried out, and this failure to execute the plan of race evolution makes it impossible for you to understand very much about the status of these peoples. On an average inhabited planet, by observing the remnants of these early races on your world, in the early days of racial development, there is a slight tendency for the red, the yellow and the blue men to interbreed. There is a similar tendency for the orange, green and indigo races to intermingle. The more backward humans are usually employed as laborers by the more progressive races. This accounts for the origin of slavery on the planets during the early ages. The orange men are usually subdued by the red and reduced to the status of servants, sometimes exterminated. The yellow and red men often fraternize, but not always. The yellow race usually enslaves the green, while the blue man subdues the indigo. These races of primitive men think no more of utilizing the services of their backward fellows in compulsory labor than Urantians would of buying and selling horses and cattle. On most normal worlds, involuntarily, servitude does not survive. The dispensation of the Planetary Prince, although mental defectives and social delinquents are often still compelled to perform involuntary labor. But on all normal spheres, this sort of primitive slavery is abolished soon after the arrival of the important violet or Adamic race. These 6 evolutionary races are destined to be blended and exalted by amalgamation with the progeny of the Adamic uplifters. But before these peoples are blended, the inferior and unfit are largely eliminated. The Planetary Prince and the Material Son with other suitable planetary authorities pass upon the fitness of the reproducing strains. The difficulty of executing such a radical program on Urantia consists in the absence of competent judges to pass upon the biologic fitness or unfitness of the individuals of your world races. Notwithstanding this obstacle, it seems that you ought to be able to agree upon the biologic disfellowshipping of your more markedly unfit, defective, degenerate, and antisocial stocks. Five, racial amalgamation, bestowal of the Adamic blood. When a planetary Adam and Eve arrive on an inhabited world, they have been fully instructed by their superiors as to the best way to effect the improvement of the existing races of intelligent beings. The plan of procedure is not uniform. Much is left to the judgment of the ministering pair, and mistakes are not infrequent, especially on disordered insurrectionary worlds such as Urantia. Usually, the violet peoples do not begin to amalgamate with the planetary natives until their own group numbers over 1 million. But in the meantime, the staff of the Planetary Prince proclaims that the children of the gods have come down, as it were, to be one with the races of men, and the people eagerly look forward to the day when announcement will be made that those who have qualified as belonging to the superior racial strains may proceed to the Garden of Eden and be there chosen by the sons and daughters of Adam as the evolutionary fathers and mothers of the new and blended order of mankind. On normal worlds, the planetary Adam and Eve never mate with the evolutionary races. This work of biologic betterment is a function of the Adamic progeny. But these Adamites do not go out among the races. The prince's staff bring to the Garden of Eden the superior men and women for voluntary mating. For voluntary mating. So here we can read a in-depth understanding about this story that is being stated in the Bible. This famous story of the fallen sons of God went into the women of the human women. But this is really not the case. So here we see an incorrection again of how things have been written down in the Bible. Nothing has been enforced, and things need to be done on voluntary basis. So to mate voluntarily with the Adamic offspring, and on most worlds it is considered the highest honor to be selected as a candidate for mating with the sons and daughters of the garden. For the first time, the racial wars and other tribal struggles are diminished, while the world races increasingly strive to qualify for recognition and admission to the garden. You can at best have but a very meager idea of how this competitive struggle comes to occupy the center of all activities on a normal planet. This whole scheme of race improvement was early wrecked on Urantia. The violet race is a monogamous people, and every evolutionary man or woman uniting with the Adamic sons and daughters pledges not to take other mates and to instruct his or her children in single mateness. The children of each of these unions are educated and trained in the schools of the Planetary Prince and then are permitted to go forth to the race of their evolutionary parent, there to marry among the selected groups of superior mortals. When this strain of the material sons is added to the evolving races of the worlds, a new and greater era of evolutionary progress is initiated. Following this procreative outpouring of important ability and super evolutionary traits, there ensues a succession of rapid strides in civilization and racial development. In 100,000 years, more progress is made than in 1,000,000 years of former struggle. On your world, even in the face of the miscarriage of the ordained plans, great progress has been made since the gift to your peoples of Adam's life blossom. But while the pure-line children of a planetary Garden of Eden can bestow themselves upon the superior members of the evolutionary races and thereby upstep the biologic level of mankind, it would not prove beneficial for the higher strains of Urantia mortals to mate with the lower races. Such an unwise procedure would jeopardize all civilization on your world. Having failed to achieve race harmonization by the Adamic technique, you must now work out your planetary problem of race improvement by other and largely human methods of adaptation and control. Point 6. The Edenic regime. On most of the inhabited worlds of the Gardens of Eden remain as suburb cultural centers and continue to function as the social patterns of planetary conduct and usage age after age, even in early times when the violet peoples are relatively segregated. Their schools receive suitable candidates from among the world races, while the industrial developments of the garden open up new channels of commercial intercourse. Thus do the Adams and Eves and their progeny contribute to the sudden expansion of culture and to the rapid improvement of the evolutionary races of their worlds. And all of these relationships are augmented and sealed by the amalgamation of the evolutionary races and the sons of Adam, resulting in the immediate upstepping of biologic status. The quickening of intellectual potential and the announcement of spiritual receptivity. On normal worlds, the garden headquarters of the violet race becomes the second center of world culture, and jointly with the headquarters city of the Planetary Prince sets the pace for the development of civilization. For centuries, the city headquarters schools of the Planetary Prince and the garden schools of Adam and Eve are contemporary. They are usually not far apart, and they work together in harmonious cooperation. Think what it would mean on your world if somewhere in the Levant there were a world center of civilization, a great planetary university of culture, which had functioned uninterruptedly for 37,000 years. And again, pause to consider how the moral authority of even such an ancient center would be reinforced were there situated not far distant still another and older headquarters of celestial ministry, whose traditions would exert a cumulative force of 500,000 of years of integrated evolutionary influence. It is custom which eventually spreads the ideals of Eden to a whole world. The schools of the Planetary Prince are primarily concerned with philosophy, religion, morals, and the higher intellectual and artistic achievements. The garden schools of Adam and Eve are usually devoted to practical arts, fundamental intellectual training, social culture, economic development, trade relations, physical efficiency, and civil government. Eventually, these world centers amalgamate, but this actual affiliation sometimes does not occur until the times of the first magisterial son. The continuing existence of the planetary Adam and Eve, together with the pure line nucleus of the violet race, imparts that stability of growth to Edenic culture, by virtue of which it comes to act upon the civilization of a world with the compelling force of tradition. In these immortal material sons and daughters, we encounter the last and the indispensable link connecting God with man, bridging the almost infinite gulf between the eternal Creator and the lowest finite personalities of time. Here is a being of high origin who is physical, material, even a sex creature like ransom mortals, one who can see and comprehend the invisible planetary prince and interpret him to the mortal creatures of the realm, before the material sons and daughters are able to see all of the lower orders of spirit beings. They visualize the planetary prince and his entire staff, visible and invisible, with the passing of centuries through the amalgamation of their progeny with the races of men. This same material son and daughter became accepted as the common ancestors of mankind, the common parents of the now blended descendants of the evolutionary races. It is intended that mortals who start out from an inhabited world have the experience of recognizing 7 fathers. 1. The biologic father, the father in the flesh. 2. The father of the realm, the planetary Adam. 3. The father of the spheres, the system sovereign. 4. The Most High Father, the constellation father. 5. The universe father, the creator son and supreme ruler of the local creations. And 6. The super fathers, the ancients of days who govern the super universes. And 7. The spirit or Havona father, the universal father who dwells on paradise and bestows his spirit to live and work in the minds of the lowly creatures who inhabit the universe of universes. So that is why the Indian people called God also the Great Spirit. 7, and this is the last subchapter of paper 51, which is all about the planetary Adams. 7. United administration. From time to time the avonal sons of paradise come to the inhabited worlds for judicial actions. But the first avonal to arrive on a magisterial mission inaugurates the 4th dispensation of an evolutionary world of time and space. On some planets where this magisterial son is universally accepted, he remains for one age, and thus the planet prospers under the joint rulership of 3 sons, the planetary prince, the material son, and the magisterial son, the latter 2 being visible to all the inhabitants of the realm. Before the first magisterial son concludes his mission on a normal evolutionary world, there has been effected the union of the educational and administrative work of the planetary prince and the material son. This amalgamation of the dual supervision of a planet brings into existence a new and effective order of world administration. Upon the retirement of the magisterial sun, the planetary Adam assumes the outward direction of the sphere. The material son and daughter thus act jointly as planetary administrators until the settling of the world in the era of light and life, whereupon the planetary prince is elevated to the position of planetary sovereign. During this age of advanced evolution, Adam and Eve become what might be called joint prime ministers of the glorified realm. As soon as the new and consolidated capital of the evolving world has become well established, and just as fast as competent subordinate administrators can be properly trained, subcapitals are founded on remote land bodies and among the different peoples before the arrival of another dispensational sun. From 50 to 100 of these subcenters will have been organized. The planetary prince and his staff will foster the spiritual and philosophic domains of activity. Adam and Eve pay particular attention to the physical, scientific, and economic status of the realm. Both groups equally devote their energies to the promotion of the arts, social relations, and intellectual achievements. By the time of the inauguration of the fifth dispensation of the world affairs, a magnificent administration of planetary activities has been achieved. A mortal existence on such a well-managed sphere is indeed stimulating and profitable. And if Urantians could only observe life on such a planet, they would immediately appreciate the value of those things which their world has lost through embracing evil and participating in rebellion. And we must come to the conclusion that a lot of humanity has no real clue that they are still participating in rebellion and embracing evil. All right. And this is also the explanation why we are living in a world as we are now living in. Due to the fact that too much of the human beings are still not wanting to get a deeper understanding of the world they are living in, the planet they live on, and about themselves. So yeah, hopefully this will change very soon. It's already going on. There are more and more people starting to see through the lies from those rebellionists that try to have the entire human race and everything else, all other life forms too, under their thumb of control system. All right, this technocratic control system. Whom are presenting their plans and agendas Yeah, in a way that has nothing to do with life at all. All right. Thank you so much for listening to this audio video, and I wish you all a beautiful, joyful day. And God bless you in all the things that you are about to do and that comes from your hands. God bless you, and see you next time.